All right, Pels are back on the floor tonight, and they'll have a back-to-back. And I'm going to be interested to see how they respond here at Orlando, at Miami, with them starting to get an awful lot of attention now. Our buddy Andrew Lopez, ESPN.com NBA reporter, is good enough to join us for a couple of minutes. How are you, man?
Doing good, man. I, like you, am also very interested to see how this team responds, mostly because it's back-to-back, mostly because of the interest being shown, but also because they have a very tough homestand after this, with some big names, some big teams coming in. So these games are even more important as they try to hold on to playoff positioning right now.
Thunder, Bucks, Celtics, Suns all ahead. But first things first, they got 3 more road games in this 4-game road swing. Listen, the reason I wanted to talk to you today specifically is you of course have a great knowledge of the Pelicans, having covered that team for a long time. But as a sort of national NBA reporter now, you're in a different arena a lot of nights, and you get to see every team in the league, and you get to talk to people around the league. And yes, the Pelicans right now are a trendy team, and people are saying, well, they're a sleeper in the West. What really is the conversation around the league about the Pelicans right now?
It's a lot of it is, or let's see them do it next. Like, what's the next step for them? And is Zion going to stay like this Zion for a while, and he's going to be this playmaker who is in the best shape of his career, who's making plays on defense, who looks like the guy we thought he would look like? Is Brandon going to be able to do it at that step? Is CJ going to, what is he going to do on that kind of stage? I think you're starting to see, like, everybody, wants to try to peg them right now. I think after we talked about, we talked about it on the Hoop Collective. We talked about it on, I think First Take had everybody was starting to talk about the Pels, and all of a sudden there's everybody's sleeper team now. And to me, it's still just, I can see them losing in the first round. I can see them winning. It's all up for grabs. And I think the one game where, so they still won 7 of 8, but the one game where everybody had talked about them for a couple of days, they came out and laid an egg against Cleveland. They couldn't hit a 3, and that was it. A minus 40 plus differential in 3-pointers. That's what happened. So, but they got, bounced back against LA. They've won the 2 games they were supposed to win. How will they answer, and then what does Zion look like on that stage again? I think he was embarrassed in Las Vegas and has responded to that, and I think him and how he answers is mostly what people are talking about right now.
Now, to ask a very direct question, and based on your answers, I guess how the rest of the conversation will go. Are the New Orleans Pelicans a legitimate NBA title contender?
I don't know yet. I don't think so as of this year. If you would have, I could easily see them losing in the first round. I could easily see them winning and maybe pushing somebody who isn't Denver in the second round, depending on how things shape. I think a lot of that depends on the continued growth of Z and what exactly you see in the playoff setting from Brandon. When we saw Brandon in the playoffs a couple of years ago in that Phoenix series, he was a big reason why that series even went to 6 games to start with. Against the top-seeded team in the West. What Zion does is what tells me whether or not this team can really reach that next level. And this year, I don't think so. Is it coming? It could. Maybe there's a move or two you have to make. I still think they're very reliant on the bench. The bench is the second-best bench in the NBA this year in plus-minus. There's times where you probably can't play your starting center, and there's times when you probably can't play your starting 2 guard. One of the lineups that has worked for you as of late has been when you go Larry and Trey in with her, Brandon, and Z. So there's still some big questions that I have about this team, but can say that they do look like they are at least trending in the right direction.
Okay, if they're not a legitimate title contender this year, where is their glass ceiling this year?
I think I would have said before the season, if you would have just got out of the play-in tournament, that's a success for this year. And I think they are trending in that direction. That to me was success. I think a 50-win season is still very obtainable, and not being in the play-in tournament. That just means being a top 16. Right now, you even still have home court on the table. Right now, I think the best case scenario for this team is you find a way to sneak into the conference finals. I really don't like their matchup against Denver or some of these other teams. A second round would be great. I still think how you play in a first round series, like if you let's take the Clippers. Okay, Clippers are in. It's Clippers Pels first round. You push the Clippers to 7. I'll view that differently than I would the Clippers sweeping you. I think it's how you compete in that first round is going to tell me a lot, and it's going to tell me more about what the next step really needs to be for this team moving forward.
Let's say Andrew Lopez is our guest. Let's say the Pels get in, they beat the Clippers in the first round. They play in that 4-5 matchup. They beat the Clippers in the first round, which, look, they won the season series against the Clippers, and they seem to play really well against them. So you don't like the matchup against Denver or some of these other teams. Look at OKC, Denver, Minnesota. Why doesn't New Orleans match up well against any or all of those?
Let's start with Denver. I just think that they have not played Nikola Jokic very well, and I think, granted, not a lot of teams have, but in his last, I think, 15 or 16 games against the Pels, he's got 14 or 15 triple-doubles. And one of the games he missed it was I think he was 1 assist or 1 rebound away. He has traditionally picked them apart. They have gone with the strategy of, we're going to make Jokic beat us. Traditionally under Willie, they'll go with the strategy of, we're going to make Willie beat us, or Jokic beat us, and try to keep all these other guys out. I don't think you have a great answer for him. Now, again, not a lot of teams do defensively. So that's why I don't like that matchup. Minnesota is a tricky one, because I think that might be, of the top 4 teams, honestly, the team I would most like to see in a first-round setting if I was the Pels, if Karl-Anthony Towns is not going to play. That is going to be up in the air. Obviously, he's dealing with his knee injury, although Anthony Edwards has just been playing kind of out of his mind lately, and him just in a do-or-die situation may not be what anybody wants to see. And then Oklahoma City, they're young, but they have a couple of answers that they could throw at a Zion that other teams do not. I think even if you look at Denver has Aaron Gordon. You get him in foul trouble, what happens there? Minnesota would have to play up or play, Kyle Anderson, or do some different things. Oklahoma City could throw the Dort at him. They could throw Jalen Williams at him. Chet in the starting lineup, it's probably a game that more Larry has to play a little bit. Obviously, Herb is on Shea. So I think all 3 are intriguing matchups. I think Denver I just don't like. OKC is kind of up in the air, kind of where they're going to go. But Minnesota is one that could be intriguing to me if Cat's out of that matchup.
Last thing for you, give me a comp for an organization that sort of bubbled and then broke through to championship caliber, whether it's Denver winning it or not, or a team that's been good but never gotten through, and where the Pels are in relation to something like that, sort of as an experiment to show, okay, they're close, but how much further do they have to go?
Yeah, so if you go back, I mean, to me, one team that you kind of thought was always going to break through and never did was kind of those grit and grind
Memphis, yeah.
And there was a stretch there where they were, oh man, it felt like every year they were going to break through, and it's 3 or 4 years, and then they don't. It's still, despite the fact that you've had a different NBA champion for the last 5 seasons, it's still hard to win an NBA championship. This is only the second time, I think, in NBA history where you have had 5 different champions in 5 different years, and sometimes your window is very, very short. 2019, the Toronto Raptors didn't really get back to competing. Obviously, Kawhi had a lot to do with that, but they spent 2 years kind of meddling around, and then, okay, maybe a reset's coming. The Lakers from 3 years ago, obviously the Lakers are the Lakers, and they are what they are. We'll leave them alone. Bucks from a couple of years ago still competing. I mean, the Warriors are 2 years removed. They may not make the playoffs this year. So they're still just it's very hard to do, but you've had teams who they've peaked in the conference championship and have never really gotten through. It's still very hard. So I think if for fans, if you're looking at this season and thinking, oh man, they're bad, or they're this, or they didn't win a title, it's a failure, or they lose in the first round, it's like there's still a lot to have to be played here. I think there's still a lot to grow on, especially when you're looking at your superstars, and you look at Zion, and this is the best year he's had. He's 23 years old. He looks like he's getting better every game. He's 4 games away from playing the most games he's played in an entire season. He looks like he's going to play 65 games and qualify for postseason awards. He could be an All-NBA kind of guy this year. Things are still looking up. No matter what happens, I think, in the playoffs, things are still looking up. But there will be some moves that have to be made. There are definitely some steps that have to be taken. You're going to have to look at the center spot. You're going to have to look at where's the best spot for CJ moving forward, if it's going to be closing in that group. But it's there. But these are the steps I think you want your franchise to be taking if you're a fan of the team.
You mean having your best players for the entire season helps you be good?
It kind of does. It kind of does. It's a foreign concept, I think, to New Orleans fans for a little while, but it actually kind of works.
Oh man, Andrew Lopez at _Andrew_Lopez on Twitter. Give him a follow. Always appreciate a couple of minutes, man. Hope to catch up with you soon.
Sounds good, man.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.